Welcome to the Avenue 54 Film Club review of, oh God, am I going to say it right? Morvern, no, go for it. What do you got?
Morvern Callar.
Morvern Callar. Callar.
That's good. There was a trailer that has maybe the 3 or 4 different times that people butcher the name. It's like the beginning audio of the trailer. I just remember seeing that in a theater. So it's it's very much the joke. They know what they're leading with.
No, this is Morvern Callar.
Morvern Callar?
Morvern Callar.
Morvern Callar?
Morvern Callar.
Morvern Callar.
Yeah.
All right. Or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. This is a Lynne Ramsay joint. Chris put me up on this one. I had seen her film with Joaquin Phoenix, You Were Never Really There, sort of on a whim also, where I didn't know anything about her as a director, didn't know anything about the film. A buddy was just like, yo, there's a new Joaquin Phoenix flick. And then I was pretty blown away.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I was telling you is I didn't know what to do with the film. I didn't know where to sit it next to what films, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like in watching this, her earlier work, because this is 2002.
2002.
Yeah. I see some, fingerprints.
Yeah.
That you get in that film later. And so I'll try to do a synopsis.
Okay.
I just walked into this one blind also. I knew nothing about it other than the weird title that I couldn't pronounce when you texted it to me.
Yeah.
And so a young 20-something Scottish girl is dealing with the recent death of her boyfriend. And she goes on holiday.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
That's it.
I think that's the plot. Prior to any real spoilers, which I do think is worth getting into.
Yeah.
I would say very unique film that again is it's one of those sort of emotional rides. Probably best chick flick I've ever seen. I think I could say.
Okay.
And one of the better road films.
Yes,
road trip films.
It's like a hell of a road picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was getting hints of David Lynch. I was getting hints of Harmony Korine, of Jim Jarmusch,
Yeah.
But also all those directors on their good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this is high grade. This is high grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting having the context of the You Were Never Really There. I think it's 2017 or something. See, there's a lot of years, but only one other film between those two. One other feature. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 shorts.
So it's just the Tilda Swinton, the something about Kevin in between?
In between, yeah.
Oh, damn. I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was telling you this week's been kind of crazy for me. So usually I'll do a bit of a deep dive on what movies came out that year, what won Oscars, I mean, where did the cinematographer come from, that kind of stuff. I did none of that.
I can talk about some of that.
I did none
but
of it.
Also, it's a fun film to just kind of talk about the really what's happening.
Yeah.
Inside and right outside of the frames too. So
yeah,
I'm willing to get as lost in the weeds as you want to, or really drill down on on the DP.
Pause.
Cool.
Pause on the DP.
I mean, it's it's good. You gotta. Yeah.
All right. So if you're gonna do you would run a synopsis. Would you have any variation if somebody asks you what's that film about?
I mean, I think that's a really nice minimal synopsis because there's I could get instantly, giving the person not what they're looking for and say like, well, it's about like somebody in isolation who's like processing grief and experiencing joy, and like there's a lot that I could get into, but I think like a 20-something, I think maybe I read the novel.
Okay.
And I can't remember much about the novel except that it was really hard to understand what was happening and going on because it's written in like a real Scottish vernacular. Like, I'd gotten into like urban Welsh and train spotting and stuff as a younger person when that film was out.
Gotcha.
So I had like a passing experience with that as a reader, and I just remember like picking this book up after loving the movie and being like, this is too much for me, man.
I mean, I'm surprised to hear that it was adapted from some source material because it almost feels like it just like happened while they were making it.
There's definitely that sense of like, this is just being shot, from the hip, like, we're creating these things and catching them. But I think looking at like, You Were Never Really There, like, the amount of preparation I think she does as a filmmaker, and then like in the same sense is like willing to, in the day, in the scene, like come up with a better solution to stuff.
Right.
I think that the storytelling that she does really requires that sort of preparation and then that sort of like flexibility in the moment. I think that like just looking at shot selections that she has, I mean, it'd be a nightmare to storyboard. You're just like looking at an ant on a hand.
Right.
That's I can't tell you like that was something they planned, that those were ants that they just knew specifically to that region of Spain.
Right.
There's like some magic that's being discovered that I think like some of the filmmakers you cited earlier. I'd throw in like Werner Herzog into that mix of just like, especially I mean, it's insects, but it's a little bit of wildlife that's happening here. Yeah. Just like, finding something that's living in the space that you're shooting and really like incorporating that into it, it is cool to see.
A film I kept thinking about while we were watching it was Broken Flowers.
Sure.
For the sort of loose, why we're on the road, for like another road picture that sort of has that random organized chaos element to it.
Well, you are certainly right about that.
And then I think also the other reason I kept thinking about it was because of like how the music is used in there, that like Ethiopian jazz or whatever that is.
Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
It is actually, you got it right. It's all Ethiopian jazz. It's all like stuff that was on like, there was a really incredible series in the 90s, like Ethiopics. That's all just like CD reissues of just like one artist at a time or like a real specific region. Yeah. And it's all just like the best needle drops from like the Ethiopics stuff.
Yeah. Because the music in this film I felt was like, it's just those like, I don't know, those like buttery B-sides that you hear on like, a late night radio show where you're like, oh shit, who's that?
Each night before you go to bed, my baby, whisper a little prayer for me, my baby.
It's a fairly, in my like personal taste, an unparalleled soundtrack. And even just like the way that it functions in the film of, like that getting to be able to be like, for the most part diegetic.
What the hell is this?
You can hear her like using the sound mix to really kind of like, either at the beginning or end of the music cue.
Yeah.
You're phasing it into just like a really tinny, like weird through headphone sound before it sinks into like that beautiful big full version of the song. Yeah. And even at that point, you usually, not in all the cases, but in some of the cases, you can hear like pops. It's like sourced from vinyl because it's like still you're listening to the mixtape that was made.
Right. Right.
You know, that is probably from like records. Like Sofia Coppola did the same thing with Virgin Suicides, where it was like, you know, these are being lifted from like actual records because that's like putting you in the place a little bit.
Maybe James Gunn kind of lifted this.
Sure.
I
mean, it's like I'm not going to say that like this is that they were the first to do it, but it's like it's a really nice touch.
It's like most of what I love about the film, where like in the wrong hands,
sure,
you have the soundtrack be a plot point, and that can just be totally corny and feel forced,
sure,
you know, and like all those the filmmakers that this made me think of, you know. Not only would I say it reminds me of their best work or the best moments in their work.
Yeah.
You know, Lynch and Jarmusch and Corinne and Herzog's a good one. It does not feel derivative.
No.
Although it reminds me of their version of the randomness of life being like displayed in a simple story. This definitely feels like it's delivered by someone with a signature vision.
Yeah, she's in like conversation. This is like conversation with her peers rather than like a quote that she's like trying on. I can't remember in the context of what film it was, but I remember seeing an interview with her where she was talking about Lynch specifically, about like having that moment where she realized, or she heard him in another interview talking about the sound mixing process, and that he had his own studio that he could just like spend as much time as he needed to in the mix, and how excited she was to hear that because she loved like the sound mix process so much. And you can tell because like, you know, you think about like the amount of time you get to work on something like that in like a small short film as a student or something, versus like a first feature versus a second feature where you get to feature, you know, music like this is really part of the storytelling. And she's doing so much with that sound mix, you know, whether there's music there or not, and even when there is music, you know, layering other sounds on top of that. Something again you can see all the way through, but like specifically in like You Were Never Really There, you know, that amazing Johnny Greenwood, you know, score.
Is that who did the score? I didn't know that.
I mean, that's another one where you're just like,
dope.
if these folks want to work with her, like, they know what they're doing. You know, where it's just like this really beautiful, spare, minimal, and then on top of that, you just have like this layer of New York City, you know, just like mixing with that so beautifully. She's like never gonna waste an opportunity to really like fully take advantage of the amount of sound that she can use.
Well, there were like those suspenseful silent moments. Spoilers now, I guess, like the flashlight sequence in the beginning, where, you know, one of, if not like the most like terrifying, but you don't really know why, with a, you know, a strong note of sexuality. But it gets eerily silent. And then there's a few other sequences like that. Where you're indoors, and it felt so much like a Lynch scene for a few seconds. He does that like shh.
He'll have like that when there's supposed to be silence, that kind of like atmospheric, just like that.
Which I always loved so much. Lost Highway, it was heavy. In the opening scenes between Bill Pullman and Patricia Arquette. When they're in the house. And the tension's so like thick between them. It spells out in a sonic way what silence can feel like.
For sure. There's like a crackling, like a literal energy in that sound. There's like, I feel like by Twin Peaks: The Return, he's just like so in the pocket with that, with like deploying that. It's a real beautiful, you know, trick to have. But there's a kind of a opposite of that with Ramsay, and like that scene you're talking about where like there's something so surreal and kind of crazy and like potentially weird and violent that's happening on screen, where it's like the image is so potent that you don't need sound. Like having any sound there would maybe take away from the image, the power of the image.
I think so, for sure.
And there is like a weird, like, you know, that's early on in the film where it's just like, what is this story that we're seeing? What is like what's happening here? Just like that kind of crazy first shot of like the boatman, I think, with like, you know, his goggles fully reflecting, and then like getting that wandering, you know, lamp light, that searchlight that finds her, you know, just standing there,
right? And
then like how quickly she kind of like takes control of that,
right?
And just like you can even just like the pose that's struck, the way that like she allows like the image to hold and then like, you know, let it go. It's just like
works
so good.
It works,
and it's such a weird. I mean, it's such a weird moment out of the context of that film, but it's still like really beautiful.
I kept thinking of these, you know, really properly set up the composition of the shot with how like the realism. I think you said like how organic everything looked.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, her frames are beautiful. It's like absolutely immaculate framing and shot selection, I think, throughout all four films. Yeah. This one especially. There's a real power in having that level of control, but having it in like a grounded, real world. Yeah. Not having it in. I mean, I love an artificial soundstage. I love art direction. I love set decoration, and these films still obviously have that. Yeah. But it's lived in a way that's like just makes it easy to, I don't know if identify is like really fully what I'm doing in Morvern Callar, but like you know, I see life. I see life happening. I see like a lot of what I recognize as like this world and this experience happening on screen.
It has like a whimsical tone to some of it. Yeah. But it also has this blend of realism, of like gritty realism. I guess because you open with such dark subject matter. Yeah. That the tone of that just carries over the entire film. Sure. And there's like this weird looming threat that's sort of never delivered. Right. A thing kept coming to mind, you know, that saying, youth is wasted on the young. This film was like, youth is best spent on the young.
Sure, this is someone who's not. They're saying like, fuck that. That's not true. I think that Ramsay in general, a lot of her films are really free from what would be like traditional morality.
Yeah, like judgment.
Yeah. And it's really like a wide open space for characters. Yeah. And in this one specifically, you know, to get to see someone who is like that young in such a what seems like probably unsupported, precarious financial situation, like be brave and make choices like that, and live life is really, it does start in a dark place, and it is like a lot of the themes in the film super dark. I mean, like the sequence where the body is finally dealt with. I mean, like
that's probably the darkest it gets.
But it's also
that is.
There's a lot of humor in that scene too, and I think the scene that follows it.
What does she tape to her? She has the Walkman.
The Walkman. To her. I mean, also just like an incredible. There are a couple times in the film where I feel like you really see her suit up in armor. Like you see. I mean, maybe first of all, there's like the series of gifts that are given. Yeah. Where it almost takes on the quality of like you know, of like a fable or like a quest of some sort. You get like the armor of the bomber jacket. You get like the fire of the lighter. Yeah. You get like the Walkman and the tape. That's going to be like the constant companion and soundtrack to this thing.
And that's his message.
And
to her, be brave.
And then be brave. Yeah. And that like literally, I wrote this for you. Yeah. And And to see her like fully embrace all of that stuff and use it is super cool.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, it's kind of shitty of me to like bring up all these other filmmakers.
No, not at all.
In a way,
I think that
because I really do. I can't emphasize enough. She has her own vision in a very strong way. It just reminds me, and I guess it's a compliment that like she reminds me of all these great filmmakers.
Yeah, I imagine
when they're at their height.
I imagine she'd be pretty stoked on like the list that's been run down so far.
You know, if I were making a film. I would be slipping in homages, whether consciously or unconsciously, to my favorite filmmakers and my favorite films.
Yeah.
And I think if you're gonna do it, this is how you do it.
Sure.
You know, and I was on the ride the whole way.
Yeah.
Like I got in very quickly.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And like I typically have problems with films when I finish them, at least one or two.
Sure. Yeah.
I can't think of a one in this thing.
Nice.
Like this is a solid piece of art here.
I mean, I think that they're there if you want to find them, but I think like the good read on that is like you can enjoy it and not, you know. I think one of the things that
what's there if I was looking?
You know, that's one of the things where I talk about like it being like a morality, like a world without traditional morality going on. It's like I think they're cues that get subverted that are kind of like she's having fun with, where I'm sure there are a lot of audiences for this film where you kind of keep waiting for like what are the consequences. Like I think that that's the area where people have problems with it.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's a problem of the film. I think it's like a problem with
people.
With people. It's a people problem.
That's a people problem. Well, especially if I've seen a film 6-7 times, you know, I'll usually like, oh, they should have expanded more on this piece, or like there were missed opportunities here, or stuff like that.
Sure. So I just, you know, that scene where she goes to check on the granny.
Yeah. I
just like, you know, another hour and a half of the two of them. The granny just like pointing out the window, and her being like, yeah. But I think also it's another kind of like early window into Morvern as a person, like what she's experiencing. Like she's leaving her, you know, her house, her apartment with her dead boyfriend's body to like go check on her friend's grandmother.
Right. Well, because I mean, I think that's another big piece to what her character is that she has no family.
Sure.
That her family is this apartment that's not even hers. It feels like is his, because all his stuff is there.
Yeah.
And that's how the girlfriend's like referring to it. Like, let's listen to all his music. Let's go into his computer.
Yeah.
So she's like living in somebody else's house, has no family, and the only family that she has is a dead man.
Yeah.
And a friend's
grandmother.
And
a family she is in like a 10-minute car ride with in Spain.
Right.
You know, these like real little moments. And like, you know, you get those lines where I think twice she references it. You know, she points to an island and says, that's where I buried my stepmother.
Right. And then wants to
my
tell
foster
the guy.
mother. And then tells the guy, you know, I can tell you about my foster mother's funeral if you want. And that scene too, you know, so like great. In rewatching it the number of times, like I can get lost in the weeds of like what's going on here, what is, you know, that
you mean like symbolically?
Of like, of like, you know, what leads to that of her like following a scuttling, you know, insect out underneath the hotel door, opening it out to the hallway. A very composed shot, unlike a lot of the other ones in the film. Yeah. With, you know, low rent, rinky dink, Spanish, you know, holiday hotel, but with this really strong, angular symmetry to the composition that looks like, you know, maybe a kind of jokey, winky homage to The Shining or something like that. Right. Followed by a sequence of, you know, I don't know, sex with a ghost, sex with a random person you meet at a hotel, her, you know, boyfriend who committed suicide. Right. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's a hell of a scene. Oh, see, I didn't think about it. That's cool. It's cool. That's cool. Or it's not that at all. You know, there's like the film all of her films, they create a lot of space, I think,
Yeah.
for us as viewers to like think.
Wow, that's cool. Cause yeah, totally. I didn't. What I processed in that scene is, you know, so she follows the roach. We follow the roach in a tight close up out the door, and then it's like. And I think I said it while we're watching it. It's like, oh, we should go out
That's
there.
a good
you know,
idea.
it's like
Yeah.
that's a good idea. We should go out there.
Yeah.
And then she follows, and then as soon as she walks into the hallway, the door slams behind
slams,
her.
yeah.
So you get, and I was like, oh, are we in? Is this going supernatural on us? Like
For a moment,
yeah,
sort
what's
of.
going on here?
Yeah.
So, but I just went. I went. Oh, she had the sliding door open or the window open, so the wind just blew it shut.
Could be that too.
You know, so I was like, no, we're not going supernatural. Let's not get silly here, Bob. You know? And then, but now that you bring up the open door to the, you know, she goes and knocks on a random door in the hallway, and the guy who we've never seen before who answers immediately talks about the death of a family member. And then they go on to have this amazing fucking sex sequence, like one of the best sex sequences
It's a very
I've ever
good,
seen.
a very good, fun, joyful on-screen sex scene.
Yeah,
Hell of a music cue on that one too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't have a bad word to say about this movie.
Hell
to be
yeah.
honest, like
Hell yeah.
I don't like. Wow, yeah. I'm pretty in love with this one, man.
Nice.
So Samantha Morton, fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of, really, it's her and her friend, her redheaded friend.
Yeah. Who's
Who,
like, to my knowledge, not a professional actor.
gotcha.
You know, like I think a lot of the casting in Ramsay's films in general,
Non-actors.
a lot of times she's like willing to do that and knows to do that.
Yeah.
And in this one specifically, I think a lot of, you know, the locals in Scotland, the locals in Spain. And there's that, I think in all of her films, but in this one especially, just, you know, the comfort of being able to deploy that close-up shot on an actor's face.
Yeah.
Getting a face like Samantha Morton's.
Right.
Of just like, that's the special effects. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I've been watching a lot of like Buster Keaton silent films recently.
Oh, yeah, you told me.
And so
yeah.
there's like, you know, him as an actor and as a director, you get like those amazing set pieces, those amazing stunts that he's doing all in these giant, you know, oneers and stuff.
Yeah.
But then he also knows that like the best part of his performance is just going to be when he looks like straight into camera.
Yeah.
You know, sighs, looks off camera. You know, it's just like it's happening in like his face.
Yeah.
And there's like, you know, as amazing as all of those, you know, like a house falling, you know, 500 women chasing him through the streets.
Yeah.
Just like all this crazy shit to choreograph. Like that's
Yeah.
really where like the magic of I don't know, this like the empathy machine of cinema just like comes alive
Right.
in like a character's face.
So I'm gonna rewatch. The Joaquin Phoenix one, because I only saw it in the theater when it first came out in
Yeah.
the limited run.
It's a wild one.
Yeah. I always remember that, the bag over his head. Oh, Jesus.
I mean, there's a, you know, like,
But we need to talk about Kevin.
and
too.
I'd say Ratcatcher too, you know.
And I would definitely check for anything she puts out in the future. Like
Yeah.
now I'm like a fanboy. And I love the fact that I only have to watch two
That's the
more
thing.
to have the whole
You
catalog.
can be, can have be a total Lynne Ramsay authority in like, you know, an 8-hour workday.
Yeah.
You can get it done
Totally. I could even watch like a commentary or something.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's sick. So recently I was chatting with a friend about how we do the ratings.
Yeah.
And we kind of came up with doing a star rating instead of the IMDb out of 10.
Yeah.
And thinking about it in this way. 4 stars is what you get. 1 for story, 1 for acting, one for direction, and one for audiovisual.
Okay.
And then the 5th star is a bonus star for exemplary filmmaking. Standout, originality, creativity, above and beyond filmmaking.
Okay.
As of right now, I just watched it, so I haven't sat with it for too long. This is a 5-star film.
I fully agree.
This is a 5-star film.
Yeah, it's a 5-star film for me.
Yeah.
I'd say it's my second favorite film of 2002.
Hell yeah.
But it's one
okay.
of my.
Whoa,
but it's still one of my all-time favorite films.
All right, what came out in 2002 that took the crown?
I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff, but the
Sure.
the one in 2002 is Spirited Away,
Oh,
which
okay.
is another like it's
Yeah.
a 6-star film.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a 6-star. Oh, we're doing.
it's like in a different, but I'd
Bonus
say Morvern
plus.
Callar's. I mean,
Yeah.
It's like, people can go through and be like, this is a good year for film. This is a good year for film. That for me, just those two,
Sure.
sitting right there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's also just like the age that I was, the
Yeah.
movies I was seeing, getting out there. I mean, it just felt like what a year.
I think I saw Spirited Away too old or something.
Yeah.
Like I had already passed my psychedelic years
Yeah.
when I saw it. So I think maybe that's why it doesn't have the power that so many people who I hold their opinion in high regard hold it
Yeah.
in. It doesn't have that for me. It's rad, of course.
Yeah.
But like I feel like I don't know. Like you got to hear. No, I was gonna say you got to hear like Pink Floyd at a certain point in your life to like. But no, you can hear that when you're 40 and
Sure.
still be like, "What the
I mean,
fuck?
I think
This is incredible."
I think Spirited Away is in that same level of psychedelics. I mean, it was my 6-year-old's favorite movie when she was probably like 5.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
She would just like want to watch it over and over again.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's our review of this film. Is there
Nice.
anything you'd like to add?
I'm just so happy that you enjoyed it. I mean, I think this
yeah,
would have been
man.
a fun and weird one to discuss anyway it broke down.
Yeah.
But just like the fact that that you get this movie to enjoy it just makes me real happy.
No, I can't thank you enough because like I don't. We've been doing the movie club for a decade now, movie every week. A long time ago where we would be like, what do you want to watch? And that sort of thing.
Sure.
And then it would just end up in a cluster where like no one could make a decision. There were like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So it just became, okay, we mostly watch them in my backyard and I usually throw the date out and no one's going to take control of the text feed. So I'm going to pick the film.
Yeah.
So now
You're curating.
Yeah, so I pick the film every time, so people don't recommend films to me.
Yeah.
Very often. It's pretty rare.
I mean, this is one that's like, it has a following. It's like rabid fans, but I don't think it's, for as good as it is, I don't think it's discussed nearly as much as it should be.
I had never heard of it.
I mean, it's
at all.
21 years old now.
Yeah.
It's like last year, a little bit of conversation about the 20th anniversary. I think it was screened at like Brain Dead maybe in March.
Oh, tight.
Which I didn't realize until probably like last week, and I was like, fuck, I would have loved to see a print of that again. But,
totally.
I think that this film, but all of her films, there's still like an audience who's going to find them.
Yeah.
Like, these are just going to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, so Avenue 54 Film Club highly recommends, God, I still can't say the name, Morvern
Callar.
Morvern Callar.
I don't know if I'm saying it right either, but,
We'll put it in the description of the review, and then even if you can't pronounce it, just like copy and paste it into whatever, the interweb, and go find it, because I'm sure it's streaming somewhere.
It's available.
Yeah.
It's one of those few ones where I have like a physical copy because I'm always worried like music rights are gonna fuck it someday. But it seems to be out there and available for people to watch, which is great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe or some shit. That's the one.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.